I'm here with Senate President Stuart Adams, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming legislative session. We're recording this just a few days before you and your 103 colleagues come back on the Hill. Actually, it's 102 right now because there are 2 open seats. There'll be some special elections this weekend to fill those seats. But let's talk about the session. The House Republicans put out their list of priorities. What are some of the things that you're focusing on as we get ready for the 2023 session to start?
First, before I start into that, you mentioned we're 102 other. We're missing Senator Karen May, my minority leader from last session's. I can't start without maybe thinking of her. We wish her well. We're concerned about her health. She's a true statesperson. She was, at times, I think one of the sessions, she was the top bill sponsor, passed more bills than anybody else as a minority member of the legislature. That's phenomenal. We miss her. She's a great friend, and we may disagree on many things, but one thing we don't disagree on is how much we care for each other, and I just would mention her.
Well, and that's a big hole to fill while we're talking about that, because she's leaving after 15 sessions up here. I was looking at the overall experience of lawmakers this session. You've got 17 new lawmakers coming in, probably 19 with these 2 open seats. There's one in the House as well. The average term of service for lawmakers here is just over 6 years. So with someone with 15 years exit so abruptly, that's hard to replace.
It is, and we're going to miss her. And not only her years of experience, but her demeanor. Again, she was a statesperson. She could tell you to go to heck and make you look forward to the trip. She had a lot of wisdom and a great wit, and a great friend. But Senator Escamilla is the new minority leader. She's a phenomenal person as well, and we're excited to work with her. And even though, again, we don't see things eye to eye, we have great respect and admiration for one another, so I look forward to a great session. So let me get into what some of our priorities are.
Sure.
I know you want to talk about that too. I'm going to announce one more time, and I don't think it's any surprise. It's not earth-shattering.
Say it with me. The year of the tax cut.
Again, and again. 2023 will be the year of the tax cut. And not only will it be the year of the tax cut, which is pretty phenomenal to be able to cut taxes so many years in a row. But what is more phenomenal than that is many states cut taxes. You see them cut them all the time. But to cut taxes and do record spending for education and to take care of our educators, the 2 of those combined, and again, not only is the year of the tax cut again and again and again, but it is the year to fund education again and again and again. We're going to do both, and that's a little bit unique to Utah, to be able to have a state that can both cut taxes and take care of education. In fact, I think we've had more spending. I think the NEA came up and over a period of time said that we were number 2 in the nation as far as increase in education spending, or I think maybe the last 10 years. That's a pretty phenomenal achievement.
So you're talking about tax cuts, and there's a number of things on the table. I know that one of the things that's being talking about is a rate reduction. You did that last year. Governor Cox has put forward possibly a tax rebate. I'm sensing there's not a lot of appetite for that this year, as there are other issues on the table, such as cutting taxes on Social Security, going all the way. You went part of the way on that a while ago. Am I on the right track in talking about those things? That it seems like the top priority is probably reducing the tax rate right now. I think there's a bill out there that takes it down 0.05% in the income tax rate. Is that where you think that's going to come down?
Well, I think everything's on the table, Brian, but I think that there is a lot of support for income tax reduction. And income taxes, when you tax your income, it's a tax on productivity. And we've seen a lot of economic studies from very smart economists that say if you want your economy to be strong and maintain strong like Utah's is, you need to be sensitive about taxes on productivity, which is income tax. But I would say every tax is on the table to be talked about. you mentioned Social Security tax. I hope everyone's aware that if you make $62,000 or less, and you're receiving your Social Security income, that you don't pay any state income tax right now. That 4.85% is not something you pay, and there's pressure to actually increase that from 62,000 to either take it totally off or to increase that amount. Property tax has been very challenging lately. We've seen values increase, and hopefully, according to Truth in Taxation, the burden should be increased, but I think the homeowners and property owners are feeling a real challenge with property tax. So we'll probably debate and discuss all the taxes, and we'll see how it comes out.
You talked about education funding, and the flip side of cutting income taxes is that you're taking future revenue away that from school, higher education, public education, and some social securities, some social services. So that's sort of the flip side of that. When you're talking about education funding, you are legally required, as part of the deal you made with Our Schools Now a few years ago, to cover any inflation and school growth. I understand school growth was probably flat or even net negative last year. You've set aside some money already to cover that obligation. Sounds like, and this seems to be the sense I'm getting from those in the House as well, that there's an appetite to do something else in terms of above and beyond that, like you did last year.
Well, we're going to fund education again at record levels, and there's a little misconception, because we do have a constitutional amendment or constitutional mandate to spend income tax on education generally. That when we cut income tax, we're cutting education, but we can spend, and we do spend, sales tax dollars, general tax revenue, on education too. So we can spend more money on education. We just can't take those education income tax dollars and spend it on something else. Mm-hmm. So we have that flexibility. And we're going to do it this year. We're going to do something that I think may never have been done. I think it has been done one time in the history of the state. And even though we've funded education at record levels and we've seen some great increases in education funding, teachers' salaries, for whatever reason, have not kept up. And we're probably going to fund directly teacher salary increase this year, which is pretty phenomenal in addition to the WPU increases.
Those teacher salaries, I've been told by some pretty reliable sources that they're going to be coupled with a school choice bill. Pass school choice, then you do the teacher salaries, but it's likely the teacher salaries will not pass unless there's some sort of school choice bill that passes as well. Is that your understanding?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about whether teachers are compensated enough, and I told you that their compensation hasn't kept up. But there's also been a desire from parents to be able to have choice, and there was a Dan Jones poll that I think's just come out or coming out that actually asked whether parents ought to be able to take their state tax dollars that's allocated to their students and take them to either public or private or charter schools or anywhere where they want. And almost 60% of them said they wanted to. They thought it was right, and only 32% said that it wasn't. And I think part of the narrative and the perception has changed, having gone through COVID, is that I think parents have been more involved in their kids' education. They want more choice. They've seen that perhaps one size doesn't fit all, and one of their child needs to go to public and the other to some other type of process. And it's really not fair to teachers to expect them to be everything to everyone, and one size doesn't fit all. But we're seeing the public sentiment change, and I think we will probably deal with both of those this year.
I'd be careful with putting too much stock in a Dan Jones poll. They missed the Utah Senate primary race in 2022 by somewhere around 20 points, so they were off quite a bit. Back to vouchers, though. Actually, it's going to be a scholarship. People get all over me when I say it, but it's the same thing. It's the same mechanism. Just the terminology is different. Legislature passed a vouchers bill in 2007. There was a referendum that killed it. Is part of the strategy this time around making sure that you get 2/3 in both houses? Because at that point, you can't have a referendum.
Well, I'm not sure what the vote count will be. It'd be great if we had a unanimous vote, let alone 2/3. But I really think what we're seeing is we're seeing a shift in public perception. And people and parents want choice. I really feel that regardless of the Dan Jones polls. I talked to a lot of constituents, a lot of people. I was amazed. It didn't matter what school district. I'm in the Davis district, but I heard from Salt Lake district. I heard from Grant. I heard from Alpine. Parents everywhere around the state that want the ability, the flexibility to be able to take their kids and put them in the type of education system that solves their needs. And I think there's demand for it. We'll see how it fares in this legislative session.
One last thing on that. I know there's a proposal out there, and there's not a bill, and that's the thing everyone says, I haven't seen a bill yet, you haven't seen a bill yet. But there is a proposal out there that I think calls for like an $8,000 scholarship for students. That's almost 2 WPUs. That's almost double the normal WPU, which are around 4,600. Does that make any sense?
Well, let's wait for the bill, okay? Because I'd like to see the bill.
You are nothing if not consistent on those answers. I want to talk a little bit about the Great Salt Lake funding. I mean, everyone's making a lot of noise about saving the Great Salt Lake. There was a very hair-raising report that came out or was presented to lawmakers within the last month that said in 5 years it could be gone. Is it too late? It seems to me the time to actually start addressing this Great Salt Lake is when it was a third empty, not when it's 80% empty.
Well, it's never too late, I don't think. And we can be thankful for the snowpack we have right now. I think it's close to 200% of normal. We know that we live in the second driest state in the nation. So even though we have great snowpack, and that may help the Great Salt Lake, we need to be vigilant about trying to protect and take care of it. And I'm really optimistic, Brian. I mean, we've seen new innovative ways that we've been shown. One is a subsurface drip system that allows you to actually, instead of drip water on the top of the ground and the base of plants, to be able to put it subsurface and put nutrients in it that allow. I think the statistics I'm hearing is you get twice the yield for half the water. I mean, if we can take half of the agricultural water and use it for other sources, we can solve some of these problems. And I'm seeing I think there's water around the region. And I think the encouraging thing to me is Utah's not alone in this problem. I mean, we've got California, Nevada, Arizona, and Idaho, and Montana. And there's water around the Intermountain West. It's a matter of getting it. And it's going to take some financial resources to go get it and figure out how we can get it to Utah or into the Colorado or other sources. But I'm just kind of optimistic we're going to find a way to solve these problems.
Yeah, but the clock is ticking. I mean, that 5-year deadline, it doesn't pay attention to party politics or anything along those lines. I mean, when scientists say it's 5 years, it may not be exactly 5 years, but that seemed that at least made my hair stand up a little bit.
And we're on it. We'll see if we're able to beat the race.
But that brings up the following question. Do you think that there is enough political will here if something drastic needs to be done? Do you think that
absolutely.
Political will exists?
I think we've shown it. I think last year we put almost $500 million. That's a lot of money, Brian. Almost $500 million into water development. You'll see us put a large amount of money into it this year. We've got great engineers, great scientists. We have great capacity, and I think you saw this. I mean, have you ever seen the reduction like we had last year in water usage in the state? The citizens stepped up too. No, I am very optimistic. It's going to take everyone, all hands on deck. It's going to have to be serious about it. It may take some significant spending, but the will is there. I think you're seeing it. I think you're seeing it from citizens. I think you're seeing it from legislators. I think everybody's on board.
Last thing I want to ask you, is there some issue that we're not talking about, nobody's really paying attention to, that you're going to have to resolve in the first part of the session? Is there some important thing that's going to pop up that might take, I guess, casual observers or people who aren't looking at things by surprise?
I don't know on that. I think there's 104 legislators, 103 other legislators. I think I always get surprised. Sometimes I read what bills are going to run in the paper, so thank you for covering those. But
but is there something on your radar that you know that we're going to have to address that isn't getting a lot of attention right now?
We're addressing most of them. I mean, education, infrastructure, all those things are, I think, on the table. I'm not aware of anything that's in the back of my mind, but who knows?
I'm not going to ask you about the culture war bills and some of the social stuff. I think there's some of the stuff anyway. Yeah, I assume you wouldn't go there anyway. You retreat too. I haven't seen a bill.
Well, I need to respect the sponsor and let the sponsor speak for the bill. So.
I understand that. I'm just talking to somebody.
And you're aware of those, so I'm not sure that's. I think everyone's aware of those. You've talked about them all.
Yeah. Well, President Stuart Adams, thank you for your time.
Well, appreciate you, Brian. I look forward to a great session with you. Press availability every day. If it fits, come on in and we'll see what issues come up and look forward to what I think is going to be a very productive, a very great session. I mean, how can you be in a better position than to have the economic capacity the state has and to be able to, in the middle of having gone through a pandemic and actually gone through and starting into somewhat of a challenging time with the interest rates. So I think we're in about as good a shape as we can be as a state, and we should have a great time this session, so thank you.